Book of Jehovih, Chapter 1. 1. All was, all is, all ever shall be. The all spake, and motion was, and is, and ever shall be. And being positive, was called he and him. The all motion was his speech. 2. He said, I am, and he comprehended all things, the seen and the unseen. Nor is there aught in all the universe but what is part of him. 3. He said, I am the soul of all, and the all that is seen is of my person and my body. 4. By virtue of my presence all things are. By virtue of my presence is life. By virtue of my presence are the living brought forth into life. I am the quickener, the mover, the creator, the destroyer. I am first and last. 5. Of two apparent entities am I. Nevertheless, I am but one. These entities are the unseen, which is potent, and the seen, which is of itself impotent, and called corpor. 6. With these two entities, in likeness thereby of myself, made I all the living. For as the life is a potent part, so is the corporeal part the important part. 7. Chief over all that live on the earth, I made man, male and female made I them, and that man might distinguish me, I commanded him to give me a name. By virtue of my presence commanded I him, and man named me not after anything in heaven or on the earth. In obedience to my will named he me, after the sounds of the wind uttereth. And he said, E-O-I, which is now pronounced Jehovih. Chapter 2. Jehovih said, By virtue of my presence created I the seen and the unseen worlds, and I commanded man to name them. And man named the seen worlds corpor, and the unseen worlds es, and the inhabitants of corpor man named corporeans. But the inhabitants of es he called sometimes Asaians, and sometimes spirits, and sometimes angels. 2. Jehovah said, I created the earth, and fashioned it, and placed it in the firmament, and by my presence brought man forth a living being. A corporeal body gave I him, that he might learn corporeal things, and death I made, that he might rise in the firmament and inherit my ethereal worlds. 3. To Es I gave dominion over corpor. With Es I filled all place in the firmament. But corpor I made into earths and moons and stars and suns. Beyond number made I them, and I caused them to float in the places I allotted to them. 4. Es I divided into two parts, and I commanded man to name them. And he named one Etheria and the other Atmospheria. These are the three kinds of worlds I created. But I gave different densities to atmospherian worlds and different densities to the ethereal worlds. 5. For the substance of my ethereal worlds I created Eth, the most rarefied. Out of Eth made I them. And I made Eth the most subtle of all created things, and gave to it power and place, not only by itself, but also power to penetrate and exist within all things, even in the midst of the corporeal worlds. And to Eth gave I dominion over both Atmospheria and corpor. 6. In the all highest places created I the ethereal worlds, and I fashioned them of all shapes and sizes, similar to my corporeal worlds. But I made the ethereal worlds inhabitable both within and without, with entrances and exits, in arches and curves, thousands of miles high and wide, and overruled I them with perfect mechanism, and in colors and movable chasms, and mountains in endless change and brilliancy. To them I gave motions, and orbits and courses of their own, independent made I them, and above all other worlds in potency and majesty. 7. Neither created I one ethereal world like another, in size or density, or in component parts, but every one differing from another, and with the glory matchless each in its own way. 8. Atmospherian worlds I also created in the firmament, and I gave them places and orbits and courses for themselves. But atmospherian worlds I created shapeless and void of fixed form, for they are in process and condensations or dissolution, being intermediate in condition betwixt my etherian and my corporeal worlds. Of 3 degrees of density created I them, and I commanded man to name them, and one he called Agi, and one Jaiae, and one Nebulae. 9. But all of them are composed of the same substances, being like the earth, but rarefied. Nor is there on the earth, or in it one thing, even iron, or lead, or gold, or water, or oil, or stones, but the same things are in my atmospherian worlds. As I have given light to the earth, so have I given light to many of them. And all such have I commanded man to call comets, and even so named them. 10. And I also created atmospheria around about my corporeal worlds. Together made I them. Chapter 3. Thus spake Jehovih, by the light of Cosmon proclaimed he these things amongst the nations of the earth. 2. Man looketh upward in prayer, desiring to know the manner of all created things, both on earth and in heaven. And Jehovah answered him, saying, 3. The whirlwind made I as a sign to a man of the manner of my created works. As thou beholdest the power of the whirlwind, gathering up the dust of the earth and driving it together, know that even so do I bring together the Agi and the Jaiae and Nebulae in the firmament of heaven. By the power of the whirlwind create I the corporeal suns and moons and stars. And I commanded man to name the whirlwinds in the etherian firmament, and he named them vortices and wark. According to their shape named he them. 4. By the power of rotation, swift driving forth in the extreme parts, condense I the atmospherian worlds that float in the firmament, and these become my corporeal worlds. In the midst of the vortices made I them, and by the power of the vortices I turned them on their axes, and carry them in the orbits I allotted to them. Wider than to the moons of a planet have I created the vortices, and they carry the moons also. 5. Around about some of my corporeal worlds have I given nebulous belts and rings, that man might comprehend the rotation of my vortexan worlds. 6. For each and every corporeal world created I a vortex first, and by its rotation and by the places in the firmament whither it travelleth, caused I the vortex to conceive the corporeal world. 7. A great vortex created I for the sun, and within this vortex and subject to it, made I the vortices of many of the corporeal worlds. The sun vortex I caused to rotate, and I give it power to carry other vortices within it. According to their density and position are they thus carried forth and around about the sun. 8. Think not, O man, that I created the sky a barren waste and a void of use, even as man in the corporeal form is adapted to the corporeal earth, so is he in the spiritual form adapted to my etherian worlds. 3 great estates have I bestowed on man, the corporeal, the atmospherian, and the etherians. Chapter 4. Man perceived the general foundation of the world, and he prayed that his eyes might be opened for a sign in heaven. And Jehovah answered him, saying, 2. The clouds in the air I bring into view suddenly. By different currents of wind make I thus the unseen visible and tangible to man's senses. In like manner do I cause etherian currents to bring forth Agi and Jaiae and Nebulae prior to making corporeal worlds. 3. In all the universe have I made the unseen to rule over the seen. Let the formation of the clouds stand in the view of a man on earth, that he may bear witness to the manner of the unseen becoming seen. 4. Man perceiveth, and he prayed for a sign of duration, and Jehovah answered him, saying, 5. Behold the tree which hath sprung up out of the ground and fulfilled its time. It falleth and rotteth, and returneth to the earth. But lo, the wind, which thou seest not, never cease to blow. Even so is the comparative duration of all things. Think not, O man, that corporeal things are annihilated because they disappear. For as a drop of water evaporateth and riseth in the air as unseen vapor, so do all corporeal things, even earth and stones and gold and silver and lead, become as nothing in the firmament of heaven in the course of time. 6. Things that man seeth created I with a beginning and an end, but the unseen I made of endless duration. 7. The corporeal man made I belonging to the seen, but the spiritual man made I as one within the unseen and everlasting. 8. As the corporeal man beholdeth corporeal things, so doth the spiritual man follow upward the evaporated corporeal entities of things. As corporeal things are tangible to corporeans, so are things tangible to the spirits of the dead. 9. As I cause water to rise upward as vapor and take a place in the air above, let it be a sign and testimony of other places in atmospheria whereon dwell the spirits of the lower heaven. 10. As I made a limit to the ascent of the clouds, so made I a limit to the places of the different kinds of substances in atmospheria, the more subtle and potent to the extreme, and the more dense and impotent near to the earth. 11. According to the condition of these different plateaus in atmospheria, whether they be near the earth or high above, so shall the spirit of man take its place in the first heaven. According to his diet and desires and behaviors, so shall he dwell in spirit on the plateau to which he hath adapted himself during his earth life. 12. For I made the power of attraction manifest in all things before man's eyes, that he might not err. That like should attract like made I them. 13. Man sought to know the progress of things. Jehovah answered him, saying, 14. Open thine eyes, O man. There is a time of childhood, a time of genesis, a time of old age, and a time of death to all men. Even so is it with all the corporeal worlds have I created. 15. First as vapor the vortex carrieth it forth, and as it condenseth, its friction engendereth heat, and it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. Then it taketh its place as a new-born world, and I set it in the orbit prepared for it. 16. In the next age I bring it into Semu, for it is ripe for the bringing forth of living creatures, and I bestow the vegetable and animal kingdoms. 17. Next it entereth Hotu, for it is past the age of begetting, and even as the living who are in dotage. Next it entereth Adu, and nothing can generate upon it. Then cometh Uz, and it is spirited away into unseen realms. Thus create I, and thus dissipate planets, suns, moons, and stars. 18. My examples are before all men. My witnesses are without number. I raise a tree up out of the ground. I give it a time to bring forth fruit, and then barrenness, and then death and dissolution. I prepare the new field with rich soil, bringing forth, and the old field that is exhausted, and men shall weigh the progress and destiny of a whole world. 19. Let no man marvel because of the size of the mammoth and the ichthyosaurus, for there was a time for them, as there is a time for the infusoria of this day. 20. I have given thee a sign, O man, in the queen of the honeybee. Because of the change of the cell cometh she forth a queen, even from the same manner a germ as the other bees. Be wise, therefore, and remember that the earth is not in the place of the firmament as of old. Let this be a testimony to thee of the growth, the change, and the travail of the earth. 21. Nevertheless, O man, the seen and the unseen are but parts of my person. I am the unity of the whole. Chapter 5. Man perceiveth the magnitude and glory of the corporeal worlds. He said, How shall I speak of thy great works, O Jehovah, and of thy wisdom and power? Shall I open my mouth before thee? I look upon thy countless stars, suns, and moons spread out over the heavens. The millions of years thou hast driven them on in the never-ending firmament. Processions in and out and round about of mighty worlds, by thy breath going forth. 2. O thou, all highest, how shall I hide my insignificance? I cannot create the smallest thing alive, nay, nor change the color of my hair on my head. What am I, that thou hast seen me? 3. Tell me, O my Creator, whence came life, this unseen within me that is conscious of being? Tell me how all the living came into life. 4. Jehovah heard the words of man, and he answered him, saying, Let a sign be given to man, that he may comprehend Semu. Thereupon Jehovah caused the jellyfish and the green scum of water to be permanently coming forth in all ages, that man might understand the age of Semu, when the earth and the shores by the water, and the waters also, were covered over with commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. And this substance was called Semu, because by Jehovah's presence quickened he into life, and thus made he all the living, both the vegetable and animal worlds. Not that Semu is jellyfish, or the green scum of water, for the earth in this day produceth not Semu abundantly. Nevertheless, the jellyfish and the green scum of water are signs of that which was in the day of the earth. 5. Jehovah said, Because of my presence quickened I into life all that live, or ever have lived. 6. Because I am male and female, even in my likeness thus made I them. Because I am the power to quicken into life, so in likeness of me thus made I them, and with power to bring forth. 7. According to their respective places created I the living, not in pairs only, but in hundreds of pairs, thousands, and in millions. 8. According to their respective places and the light upon Semu, so quickened I them in their color, adapted to their dwelling places. 9. Each and every living thing created I new upon the earth, and of a kind each to itself, and not one living thing created I out of another. 10. Let a sign be upon the earth, that man in his darkness may not believe that one animal changeth and becometh another. 11. Thereupon Jehovah gave permission for different animals to bring forth a new living animal, which should be unlike either its mother or father, but he caused the new product to be barren. 12. Jehovah said, And this shall be testimony before all men, that I created each and all the living, after their own kind only. 13. Such is my person and my spirit, being from everlasting to everlasting. And when I bring a new world into the time of Semu, lo and behold, my presence quickeneth the substance into life. According to the locality and the surroundings, so do I bring forth the different species, for they are flesh of my flesh, and spirit of my spirit. To themselves give I themselves, nevertheless they are all members of my person. 14. As a testimony to man, behold, the earth was once a globe of liquid fire, nor was there any seed thereon, but in due season I rained down Semu on the earth, and by virtue of my presence quickened I into life all the living. Without seed created I the life that is in them. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. Chapter 6. When man comprehended the earth, he looked upward, and Jehovah saw him and knew the desires of his soul. So Jehovah sent his sons Uz, and Uz spake, saying, 2. Hear me, O man, the mysteries of earth and heaven will I clear up before thy judgment. Thou art the highest, and comest to the chiefest of all kingdoms. From great Jehovah shalt thou learn wisdom, and none shall gainsay thee. 3. Bethink thee, O man, of the magnitude of thy Father's kingdom and his places in the firmament. Save I take thee into the heavens above. Thou canst not comprehend the places thereof. 4. Man then rose up in spirit, and ascended into the firmament, for his spirit had crystallized into separateness, and Uz and Es ascended with him. speaking in the voices of the Father. And man beheld that each and everything in the firmament was orderly, and still each to itself located. Then spake S, saying, 5. Behold, O man, as a farmer soweth corn in one place, and wheat in another, and roots in another, and flax, everything in a separate place, even so doth Jehovah store the ingredients of which worlds are made of. Everything in its place, the substance of the iron in one place, the substance of the stones in another, the substance of the vegetable kingdom in another, and even so of the substance of the animal kingdom, and the oils, and sand, for he hath places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. These that thou sawest are the Agi, and the Jai, and the nebulae, and amidst them in places there is Semu also. Let no man say, yonder is hydrogen only, and yonder oxygen only. The divisions of the substances of his creations are not as man would make them. All the elements are to be found not only in places near at hand, but in distant places also. 6. When the Father driveth forth his worlds in the heavens, they gather a sufficiency of all things. So also cometh into pass that when a corporeal world is yet new and young, it is carried forth, not by random, but purposely, in the region suited to it. Hence there is a time for Semu, a time for falling nebulae, to bury deep the forests and Semuan beds, to provide coal and manure for a time thereafter. So is there a time when the earth passeth a region in the firmament, when sand and oil are rained upon it and covered up, and gases bound and sealed up for the coming generations of men. 7. And man said, I am ashamed in thy sight, O Jehovah. I looked upward and said, Behold the sky, it is nothing. Then I said, It is true. The corporeal worlds are made of condensed nebulae, but I saw not the wisdom and glory of thy works. I lock thee up in coincidences and happenings. Thy unseen world hath become seen, and unreal hath become the real. 8. O that I had been mindful of thee! O that I had not put thee afar, nor imagined laws and decrees! Teach me thou, O Jehovah, how was the beginning of man? How was it with the first of the living that thou broughtest forth? 9. Jehovah said, Have I not declared myself in the past in my works? Have I not provided thousands of years in advance? As I have shown system in the corporeal worlds, know thou, O man, that system prevaileth in the firmament. 10. To the tree I gave life, to man I gave life, and spirit also. And the spirit I made was separate from the corporeal life. 11. Out of Semu I made man, and man was but a tree, but dwelling in Hak. And I called him Asu, which means Adam. 12. I looked over the wide heavens that I had made, and I saw countless millions of spirits of the dead that had lived and died on other corporeal worlds before the earth was made. 13. I spake in the firmament, and my voice reached to the uttermost places. And there came in answer to the sounds of my voice myriads of angels from the roadway in heaven, where the earth travelleth. I said to them, Behold, a new world have I created. Come ye and enjoy it. Yea, ye shall learn from it how it was with other worlds in ages past. 14. There alighted upon the new earth millions of angels from heaven, but many of them had never fulfilled a corporeal life, having died in infancy, and these angels comprehended not procreation nor corporeal life. And I said, Go and deliver Asu from darkness, for he shall also rise in spirit to inherit my Etherian worlds. 16. And now was the earth in the latter days of Semu, and the angels could readily take on corporeal bodies for themselves. Out of the elements of the earth clothed they themselves, by the force of their wills, with flesh and bones. By the side of the Asuans took they on corporeal forms. 17. And I said, Go ye forth, and partake of all that is on the earth, but partake ye not of the tree of life, lest in that labor ye become procreators, and as if dead to the heavens whence ye came. 18. But those who had never learned corporeal things, being imperfect in wisdom, comprehended not Jehovah's words, and they dwelt with the Asuans, and were tempted, and partook of the fruit of the tree of life. And lo, and behold, they saw their own nakedness, and there was born of the first race, Asu, a new race called man. And Jehovah took the earth out of the travail of Semu, and the angels gave up their corporeal bodies. 19. Jehovah said, Because ye have raised up those that shall be joint heirs in heaven, ye shall tread the earth with your feet, and walk by the sides of the newborn, being guardian angels over them, for they are of your own flesh and kin. 20. Fruit of your seed have I quickened with my spirit, and men shall come forth with a birthright, to my Etherian worlds. 21. As I have quickened the seed of the firstborn, so will I quicken all seed to the end of the earth, and each and every man-child and woman-child born into the life will I quicken with the new spirit, which shall proceed out of me at the time of conception. Neither will I give to any spirit of the higher or lower heaven power to enter a womb or a fetus of a womb, and be born again. 22. As the corporeal earth passeth away, so shall pass away the first race, Azu. But as I pass not away, so shall not pass away the spirit of man. Chapter 7. Jehovah said, Let a sign be given to the inhabitants of the earth, that they may comprehend Danha in the firmament of heaven. For even as I bequeathed to the earth a time for creating the living, and a time for angels to come and partake of the first fruits of mortality and immortality, so shall man at certain times and seasons receive testimony from my hosts in heaven. 2. And Jehovah caused the earth and the family of the sun to travel in an orbit, the circuit of which requireth of them 4,700,000 years. And he placed in the line of the orbit at distances of 3,000 years Etherian lights, the which places as the earth passeth through, angels from the second heaven come into its corporeal presence. As ambassadors they come, in companies of hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands, and these are called the Etherian hosts of the Most High. 3. Not as single individuals come they, not for a single individual mortal come they. 4. And Jehovah gave this sign to man on earth, which is to say, in the beginning of the light of Danha, the spirits of the newly dead shall have power to take upon themselves the semblance of corporeal bodies, and appear and talk face to face with mortals. Every 3,000 years gave Jehovah this sign on earth, that those who learned the powers and capacities of such familiar spirits might bear testimony in regard to the origin of man on earth. Jehovah said, And when it shall come to pass in any of the times of Danha that these signs are manifest, man shall know that the host of the Most High comes soon after. Let him who will become wise enumerate the great lights of my serpent, for in such times I set aside things that are old, and establish my chosen anew. 5. In the time of the earth, when man was brought forth from mortal to immortal life, the earth passeth beyond Semu, and the angels of heaven remained with corporeal man, but not in the semblance of mortals, but as spirits, and by virtue of their presence strove to make man wise and upright before Jehovah. Upon the earth the number of such angels was millions. To these angels spake Jehovah, saying, 6. Behold the work ye have taken in hand. It was commanded to you all, to partake of all the fruits of the earth, save of the fruits of the tree of life, which is of the knowledge of the earth and heaven, lest ye lose your inheritance in Etheria. 7. Behold, ye now have sons and daughters on the earth. By your love to them are ye become bound spirits of the lower heaven, until ye redeem them in the wisdom and power. Even to the 6th generation ye shall not again rise and inherit my emancipated heavens. 8. to which end ye shall be co-workers with one another in system and order. In my name shall ye become an organic body, and known as the heaven of the earth, or lower heaven, which shall travel with the earth. 9. And I will allot unto you a chief, who is wise and experienced in founding heavenly kingdoms, and he shall appoint from amongst you officers and messengers and Ashars and Asaphs and Esanars, and ye shall be numbered and apportioned unto your labor in places like unto my other lower heavens on other worlds. 10. And he who is chief shall be called God of this heaven and the earth. Unto his making bestow I them. 11. And God shall have a council and throne within his heavenly cities, and the place shall be called Horeb, because it is the first kingdom of God in this firmament. 12. And God shall rule on his throne, for it is his, and his council shall rule with them. In my name shall they have dominion over angels and mortals belonging to the earth. 13. And God shall appoint chiefs under him, who shall go down and dwell on the earth with mortals, and such chiefs' labors shall be with mortals to their resurrection. And these chiefs shall be called lords, for they are gods of land, which is the lowest rank of my commissioned gods. 14. And God and his lords shall have dominion from 200 years to 1,000 or more years, but never more than 3,000 years, according to the regions of Dan, which is light, into which I bring the earth. So shall be the terms of the office of my gods and my lords. 15. And God and his lords shall raise up officers to be their successors. By him and them shall they be appointed and crowned in my name. 16. At the termination of the dominion of my God and his lords, they shall gather together in these my bound heavens all such angels as have been prepared in wisdom and strength for resurrection to my ethereal kingdoms. And these angels shall be called brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah, for they are mine and in my service. 17. And to God and his lords with the brides and the bridegrooms will I send down from Etheria ships in the time of Dan. By my Etherian gods and goddesses shall the ships descend to these heavens and receive God and his lords with the brides and bridegrooms, and carry them up to the exalted regions I have prepared for them. 18. And all such as ascend shall be called a harvest unto me through my God and lords. And the time of my harvest shall be according to each Dan, which is 200 years, 400 years, 600 years, and 500 years. And these shall be called my lesser cycles, because they are the times of the tables of prophecy, which I give unto my servants. 19. But at no other times, nor in any other way, shall my harvest ascend to my emancipated worlds in Etheria. 7 Dans have I created for each and every Danha, and 6 generations of mortals have I given unto each Dan. 20. The angels understood the commandments of Jehovah according to their knowledge in the Etherian heavens, being heirs of other planets, and having died in infancy, and having matured in the S-worlds. But they understood not their Creator according to the practice of the lower heavenly kingdom. Wherefore their knowledge was incomplete. 21. Jehovah said, I condemn ye, not because ye have become joint procreators with the Asuans, for ye have done 2 services unto me, which are to teach yourself corporeal things, that ye may understand and sympathize with corporeans, and secondly, because ye have caused the earth to become peopled with such as are capable of immortality. 22. Behold ye now what shall happen on the earth. Such as are of your flesh and kin who cohabit together shall rise in wisdom and virtue, but such of them as cohabit with the Asuans will bring forth heirs in the descending grade of life. The first shall bring forth heirs unto everlasting life, but the second shall bring forth heirs that shall go out in darkness. 23. In the dominion of which matters your God and lords will instruct you, that ye may, by inspiration and otherwise, learn to control the behavior of mortals unto everlasting life, and that these labors be not too severe upon you. I created the Dans and Danhas in the firmament, wherein ye may be relieved from the watch by other angels from other worlds coming to exchange with you. 24. This also do I put upon you, that to rule over mortals to virtue, by your own wills governing them in all things, is contrary to my commandments. For what honor hath any man if made to do a thing? 25. But ye shall give mortals of my light, leaving them to choose. Better it is for them to suffer some than to grow up in ignorance of the stings of disobedience. 26. Behold, I make this a willing service on your part, because ye have bound your affections on the earth to your own kin. Ye willingly become guardian angels over mortals. Yet I made not a separate law unto you, as it is with you. So shall it be with the spirits of these mortals when they are born into the S-world. They will also desire to become guardian angels over their mortal kin. 27. But these spirits, never having known my higher heavens, will be unsuitable for the office of Ashars. They would be but the blind leading the blind. 28. To prevent which, God and the Lords shall provide these spirits in the first resurrection with places to dwell in, and with occupations and opportunities for education. For I desire them not to remain bound to the earth, but to rise up and inherit my ethereal kingdoms. 29. And in this also shall ye be discreet in governing them, giving them the light of my heavens, with some liberty to choose and to perfect themselves. Otherwise, they would only be slaves in heaven, according to their weakness or strength. So shall ye provide for these new spirits entering my S-world. 30. Therefore, such of you as are appointed by my God and my lords, as guardians over mortals, shall be called Ashars, and ye shall report to your respective lords, according to the section of the earth where ye may be. Of many watches shall be the Ashars. 31. And such of you as are appointed to receive the spirits of the dead into heaven shall be called Asaphs, and ye shall report to your respective lords and their kingdoms. 32. And the Ashars shall make a record of every mortal, of the grade of his wisdom and good works. And when a mortal dieth, and his spirit is delivered to the Asaphs, the record shall be delivered with him, and the Asaph receiving shall deliver such spirit with the record into such place in these heavens as is adapted to his grade, where he shall be put to labor and to school according to the place of the resurrection which I created. 33. As ye shall thus become organic in heaven, with rulers and teachers and physicians, and with capitals and cities and provinces, and with hospitals and nurseries and schools and factories, even so shall ye ultimately inspire man on the earth to the same thing. 34. And mortals that are raised up to dominion over mortals shall be called kings and emperors. As my gods and my lords are called my sons, so shall kings and emperors be called sons of God. Through him shall they be raised up to their places, and given dominion unto my glory. Chapter 8. Jehovah said, And God shall cause a record to be kept in heaven, of his dominions and his lords, and he and they shall enjoy it upon their successors, forever to keep a like record. 2. And in the times of my harvest, a copy of these records shall be taken up to my ethereal kingdoms, and filed with my Orion chiefs and archangels in the roadway of the travel of the great serpent, for their deliberations as to the progress and management of the inhabitants of the earth and her heavens. 3. Think not, O ye angels, that the resurrection of your heirs and their descendants that come up out of the earth is an easy matter and of steady progress, devoid of mishaps and woeful darkness. 4. The angels under you shall become at times rebellious and defiant, disregarding your laws and decrees, and they shall desert your heavenly places and go down to the earth in millions and hundreds of millions. And they shall drive away the Ashars, and then assume guardianship over mortals. But they shall develop no righteousness under the sun, but they will inspire mortals to war and destruction. And these angels will themselves take to war and evil on every hand, within the place of your heavens. 5. With the foul gases of atmosphere shall they make weapons of war and places of torment. With these elements shall they make suffocating hells in order to cast one another in chaos. 6. And mortals who shall be slain in war shall be born in spirit in chaos on the battlefields. In chaos shall such spirits enter the S-world, and they shall not know that they are dead, but shall still keep fighting right and left. 7. And enemy shall take enemy in these heavens, and cast him in the places of torment, which they shall have built, and they shall not know peace nor wisdom. 8. And the work of your heavens shall become as nothing, and ye shall turn to, going about delivering hells and the spirits in chaos, and your labor shall be exhaustive. Verily shall you cry out, because ye came and peopled the earth. 9. This also have I created possible unto my creations, for both angels and mortals shall learn to know the elements of the heavens and the earth, and to know the trials of love and misfortune. 10. Nor have I made wisdom possible unto any man or angel that knoweth not my elements, and the extremes of evil and good which I created. 11. But in the times of great darkness, which shall come upon earth and these heavens, lo, I will bring the earth into Danha, and my Etherians shall come in my name and deliver them. 12. And again, for another cycle shall they be left with the lessons given unto them. But they shall fall again in course of time. But again will I deliver them, through my gods and goddesses. Will I cause them to comprehend the magnitude of my creation. 13. As ye travel from heaven to heaven in atmospherian ships, even so shall ye inspire mortals to build corporeal ships and sail across the oceans, that the inhabitants of different divisions of the earth may become known to one another. 14. And when the inhabitation of the earth shall be completed, the nations shall have established civil communion, and from the east, around the east to west. In that same time will I bring the earth into cosmic era, and my angel ambassadors, gods and goddesses, shall render up the records of these heavenly kingdoms. 15. Through them will I reveal unto my mortals the creation of my worlds, and the history and dominion of my gods and lords on the earth, even from this day down to the time of Cosmin. 16. And Jehovah caused the angels of atmosphere to assemble together and organize the first kingdom of the heaven of the earth. And the place was called Horrid, because it was the place of the first organic abiding place for the first God of this world. 17. And Horrid was situated over and above the mountains of Aotan in Ugokwi, to the eastward of Yule, of that country hereinafter called the continent of Pan. 18. Thus ended the inorganic habitation of the earth and her atmosphere. End of the Book of Jehovih.